Okay, it's time now to get into the meat of EFT so I can prepare you for the Let's Do It section, which is the next section in this video. That's the section where you will actually apply EFT to yourself for an issue of your own. As part of that preparation, let me give you a little background, the theory and the background of EFT, so you have some better understanding of what you're doing. Simply stated, EFT is an emotional version of acupuncture, except we don't use needles. What we do is we tune in to the emotional issue simply by making some statements about it, and then we balance the energy system by stimulating the meridian points and tapping on certain areas in the body. Okay? You'll see that in more detail as we in the Let's Do It section. But that's the basics of it. That's what happens. Metaphorically, let me give you another way to look at that. Let's say I had a television set here, and we have it plugged into the wall, and you're seeing a normal picture and a normal sound because the electricity, that is the energy in the television set, is flowing normally the way it should. Now, if I were to take the back of that television set off and take a screwdriver and put that screwdriver and run it amongst the electronic spaghetti inside of that television set, I'm going to cause short circuits in that energy system. And what you're going to see is, instead of a nice picture and nice sound, you're going to see a distorted picture and static for sound. And that's the way it will be until I stop disrupting the energy system within that television set, and it will return to normal, so it can return to normalcy. Now, there's a parallel between that and what goes on in our emotional systems. When we tune in to a specific, let's say, past event, a rejection, a fear event, an anger, a trauma, something we might have guilt about, and so on, when we tune into that, the excess emotion that we feel that sometimes limits us is a form of a zzzt that goes on in our system, just like a zzzt would go on in the television set. And it's that zzzt that we can correct by tapping on the energy system and using EFT. Properly done, when you balance it, the zzzt did not happen anymore, and you couldn't get upset about the issue if you tried. What we need to do now is locate an unwanted memory that we'd like to apply EFT to, and there's going to be a 4-step process for that, 4 simple, rather brief steps. What I want to point out first, though, that is that you may want to pause, by clicking the pause button, this video a time or two if you want to make some notes and stop and do some things and this kind of thing. So be sure to use that pause button and the play button as the need arises. Okay, the first step, of course, is to locate the issue you want to work on. And what we'd like to have you do is to make a mental movie of a specific unwanted memory of 5 years ago or more. Now, let me talk about what I mean by a specific memory. I'm really talking about a specific event. And let me describe what that means by making a comparison. Let's say in your life, one of the issues for you is that your father always ridiculed you, and that's causing you some emotional issues over your lifetime, and you'd like to have that dissipate. The term "my father always ridiculed me" is too global, at least for the purposes of this video and this experience. We can certainly handle that with EFT, but it takes more than we're able to display here. What we want to do is narrow things down into a specific event. Because, see, "my father always ridiculed me" is made up of lots of specific events that give evidence to the fact that my father always ridiculed me. So a specific event might be something like the time my father called me fatso in front of my friends at my 8th birthday party. Okay, and you may have a lot of rejection feelings about that. You may have anger about that. You may have some other things that are still carrying over to this day, and you'd like to discharge that. So it's that kind of a specific event that we need to zero in on. And one of the best ways to do that is to make a little movie of it, a mental movie. So if you can make a mental movie of it, it would have a beginning, it would have an end, it would have characters, it would have a plot, it would have a crescendo, it would have, or maybe a climax, that kind of thing. When you make a little movie of it, then you have contained it, and we can apply EFT to it rather effectively and efficiently if you do that. So that's the first step, is to make a mental movie of a past specific emotional event that you'd like to have discharged, and that event should be, at least for these purposes, 5 years ago or more. Okay? Now, the next thing you do is you write down a brief title for that movie. In the example I gave, the title might be something like Father Calls Me Fatso. Or it could be just simply Fatso. All it has to do is be some kind of a title that reminds your system when you repeat it of what that issue is, what that specific event is. That's important because you're going to use that title of that movie on the Let's Do It tape, or video, which is next. So you need to make that movie. The briefer the better. You don't want a long, 3-sentence title. Just a few words or one word will do it. Okay. The next thing you need to do is to run that movie in your mind in detail. You just close your eyes and you reimagine it in detail. And you notice the intensity that you develop in doing that, which then brings us to the final step, which is to write down that intensity on a 0 to 10 scale. 0 is complete peace on the subject, and 10 is as intense as you've ever been on it. I realize it's an estimate. Nobody can be exact on this, but it's a benchmark, and we're going to use that, on the Let's Do It video shortly. So maybe it's a 10, maybe it's a 7, but let me also point out that it needs to be the intensity that you're feeling now, not the intensity that it was when you first experienced it, in this example, at your 8-year-old birthday party. Okay. So as soon as you have done that, then you'll be done with this section of it, and you'll be prepared for the next section. Let's do it.